So, John, what do you reckon? Future of broadcasting? Inspiring on every screen?
It seems to be something that I'm not happy with it. I'd much rather see it on a big screen. But it is the future of broadcasting, and I think that the capacity to see everything that's on television in your own time, in your own space, is going to also be an argument against the kind of criticism of this policy, because this program can only be watched by maybe 100,000 people on a television screen, but in fact
100,000 homes.
100,000 homes.
So I'm sure they're all clustered in front of the TV.
But the whole country can watch it on their television, on their laptop, and that's what I think we're going to see a lot more of.
That's assuming the whole country has a laptop, which is patently untrue. I mean, if you're relying on broadcasting to be distributed solely by computers or laptops, you have to remember that the internet discriminates against certain groups in the population, the poorer, the elderly, and so on and so forth. We're not there with universal broadband at this point.
Well, we're not there with the universal ability to receive these channels. I mean, are you happy with the Freeview strategy? Do you think it's going to work? Is it the right thing?
Well, it's the only thing at the moment. I mean, we need a free-to-air digital strategy. Freeview is that. It would be better if the Freeview channels like this one were actually available on Sky, which would give it greater prominence, greater visibility and so forth. But that relies upon TVNZ and Sky coming to a commercial arrangement, and there's no sign of that happening.
Why should that only be for TVNZ? Why shouldn't TV3's digital channel also be...
They should be there as well.
But subsidised to the same degree.
Well, that's
TV3 itself will be on the Sky HD service.
But are they going to get $79 million worth of subsidy?
I would doubt that, John.
But that's the nature of the Freeview model. The model that we picked up from Britain was the public broadcaster being the anchor tenant. It's what made it work. I wonder if it can work if we don't have an anchor tenant here. Yeah. It needed the heft of the BBC to make Freeview work in Britain.
Yeah, well, I mean, Freeview's only going to start working once they have some decent content, or you switch off the analogue signal, whichever happens first. Now, you know, content, you're probably talking sport. You've got 2 commercial blocks there of the Sky block, those who are signed up with Freeview, and it's going to be an open market for those sports rights. I mean, trying to interfere and intervene in that, you know...
It's hardly an open market between a free-to-air broadcaster, a broadcast platform, and a pay TV.
TV3 had the Rugby World Cup. I mean, they can do it if they want to, you know. There is that possibility.
Difficult.
I think analogue switch-off, though, is going to be
and
the
you've
real answer.
Actually, after spending last year sending out excitable press releases demanding that Trevor Mallard outline his plans for the digital switchover, you've set a date. What's your plan?
Well, our plan
2015 is
your
date.
That's right, yep. And we're going to be firm about that plan once either 75% of households have digital, you know, we're now at 50%, or 2012, whichever comes first. Now, I mean, we wouldn't put the date back any further because it wouldn't make economic sense. We may be able to bring it forward a bit should, you know, the penetration rates increase faster than projected. But
would you force TVNZ to make 6 and 7 available to the Sky platform?
No, we're not going to do that at this stage.
So that is a commercial negotiation.
Yeah, well, we're looking at it you know, you've got to be consistent in the way you deal with these organisations. TVNZ, and this policy, you know, is honest about it, is a commercial organisation. I think that calling it a public broadcaster, it has been in name only, but in terms of how it's functioned, it hasn't been. And making them hand over stuff to Sky, we don't think would be in the spirit of commercial competition.
Can I ask, given that view about TVNZ, which I happen to agree with, would you also take a more holistic look at their total governance, appoint boards for longer, not change the chief executive every 3 years, not make statements about internal matters? I mean, would you actually cut them free so that you might appoint a board, but actually let it have longevity, let it set a policy? I mean, we've had, I think, 6 broadcasting ministers in the last 20 years. At least 4 of them have brought their own personal view as to what television should look like, and I think that has been a real curse for TVNZ because it chops and changes all the time. It doesn't have a consistent philosophy.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think TVNZ does need certainty, and when you look at why Sky has been so successful, I mean, one of the secrets has been they've had 2 CEOs, and they've had a very simple business model. TVNZ has changed.
I think that's John's point. That's precisely what TVNZ has never been allowed to do.
Yeah, I think TVNZ does need some certainty and longevity and know where it's going, and hopefully now we've set a direction that it can say, well, this is where the future's going, this is compatible with the future of broadcasting, we can get on with being a very successful television company, and we want to see them get back to that.
Right. But this is not so much about the future, this is actually revisiting the past. This is taking us back to the late 90s when TVNZ was behaving thoroughly commercially because the then national government was preparing it for sale. And it's at that point that something like a charter is vital, because otherwise, in its urge to be thoroughly commercial, it will do things like, or it could do things like, say, we don't want any documentaries this year, thank you very much. Or we don't want any Maori programming, thank you very much. Or we don't want any New Zealand drama.
Well, this is actually a reasonable question. This extra $15 million that was charter money, will it be tagged for charter-style programming, or does it just go into the NZ On Air pile?
Well, look, the first thing is the charter has been meaningless. The difference between now and 1999 is the technology is totally different, and this is a policy for how broadcasting is going to develop. Now, in terms of the tagging of that charter money, New Zealand On Air has a very good record. They've got a good model. If you look at their mission statement, they fund programs which reflect New Zealand and reflect our culture. We say, look, TVNZ's failed at this stuff. NZ On Air are the experts at it. Let them do it, and let's not put in an extra layer of bureaucracy and regulation. Let's give them the money and say, these are the expectations. They're embodied in your mission statement anyway. Just go to it and let's get some great broadcasting on the screen.
I'm sure Paul's going to have a response to that, and we will hear it after the break. And before we hear that, we'll have a look at Simon Pound's Southern Media Thriller.